Hello, dear friends. This is Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m. with you to nourish your soul. We're studying the book Evolution in Two Worlds, a book that was written by the spirit author Luiz. Through two mediums, Valdo Vieira and Chico Xavier, this book came to life in 1958 in simply 6 months. This book is a phenomenon in itself because we have two mediums in two different cities, in two different meetings, channeling even in odd chapters, and in a short period of time, 6 months, they unveil to us 40 beautiful chapters that reveal to us the understanding of our multi-millenary pilgrimage. What a joy, isn't it? So welcome, friends. Join us. We have studied the preface of Emmanuel, in which he told us that Luiz is simply awakening in us the feeling of our immortality. Then Luiz comes and says, this book has the goal to make us study our multimillenary pilgrimage and ignite the fire of hope in our ascension to God. Then, in chapter 1, we studied about the divine plasma. Exactly. Chapter 2, we talked about, and the divine plasma means the divine breath, God's breath. We live like fish in the ocean, says Luiz. We are embraced, loved, so well taken care of by God. Then in chapter 2, he talks about our spiritual body as a whole and some parts of its physiology and also anatomy, the vital centers as he calls, and the implications of it. In the third chapter, he talks about evolution and spiritual body. The fourth, today, is about automatism and spiritual body. Okay, what is automatism? We're talking about things that we do without thinking. What are the things that we do without thinking? The heart beats. Think about your physical body, the breathing mechanism, digestion, all the senses, vision, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Many other automated systems in us, and Luiz is going to reveal to us how we acquired those automated functions. They are not a given. It's an acquisition. Did you know it? No, right? And that's the beauty of it all. Because Luiz is revealing to us that we were not created already knowing those things. It took effort and recapitulation, effort and repetition, effort and repetition for us to acquire all these functions. Because as we learned yesterday, we were created simple and inexperienced as a celestial monad, well taken care of by the angelic ministers that bring us to the planet, and we start evolving in internships in matter, clothing ourselves little by little in the different kingdoms. And through each kingdom, we repeat as many times as needed the functions of that species, of that kingdom, so we can move to the next. And we know it took 1.5 billions of years for us to go from that celestial monad stage to the age of reason. 1.5 billions of years. Do we appreciate life more? Yes, we do. Today, you'll be fascinated. Don't mind if there are many wordings. We'll break it down. Be patient. Remember, the exercise yesterday was about being patient, right? And telling ourselves, affirming to ourselves, I am progressing. You are progressing. We are progressing. I believe in my progress. Hmm? Patience and the trust that we are progressing. Ready? Are you ready now? That was a short summary so we can warm up and begin. It's a mental and feeling exercise. Shall we do it? Okay, let's go to, oh, where's my screen? Let me open my screen again so I can share with you and we can see the slides that we've prepared for you. Okay, so let us do this. Come on, friend. Okay, it's coming. Okay, there you go. Let's do it. Here we are. Chapter 4, Automatism and the Spiritual Body. Andre Luiz begins by telling us the following. Okay, welcome, dear friends. Join us. He begins by telling us about physiological automatism. Remember what I mentioned to you, huh? It's about the automated features. Where did they come from? So he says, remember, the intelligent principle before it became spirit, right? Human level, it's before human level. The intelligent principle in the course of eons, meaning years, has shaped in its own vehicle the externalization of the achievements for growth. What does he mean by it? Let's go to the next one and we're going to get to know more information. The intelligent principle controls the living cells of physical and spiritual nature, utilizing them on its own service in a way to ensure more ample possibilities for expansion and progress. So here he's talking about the spiritual principle, which is the intelligent principle, controlling our physical and spiritual body cells. Okay? To ensure what? Expansion and progress. Pause for a second. Let us meditate on this. It's not trivial. We need to think about this. He's using these words, expansion and progress. So he's saying to ensure. So we are using the cells of our spiritual body and the physical body for what? For vacation? No. For expansion of our acquisitions and progress. We incarnate, reincarnate to progress. To progress. We cannot lose sight of it, and we are not only talking about humans. In any stage of this evolution, the goal is acquisition. So if you have a dog, a cat, a bird, give more. Not only love, but give them more things because you're contributing with the evolution of that spiritual principle that is animating that the body of the dog or the cat or the bird or the turtle or the fish. It's not by chance. The plants that we have, they have a spiritual principle connected, animating them. So Why are they experiencing that stage, just like us, to expand acquisitions, new features to be acquired, and progress? Okay? So let us keep that in mind because that may change the whole perspective of our lives. Now back to the slides and more. Breathe in and out because today's beautiful. This study is so beautiful. He says to us, oops, he says, the spiritual principle then suffers on earth and in the extraterrestrial plane profound experiences that will provide, in the midst of time, the physiological automatism through which, and without any obstacles, it will perform all primary actions of maintenance, preservation, and renovation. Okay, now I'll give you, if we don't feel this, there is no use. Okay, there is no use. There are people, when they read this book, they read this book just like when they read the Bible, literally. So that's why many people say this book is too hard. It's only for scientists. You know, that's not what André Luiz says. He's talking about life. And he's saying, he's giving tips for us. So let's feel the scripture. He's saying that at the end of the day, in any experience we have, okay, we, over time, experiencing as incarnated or discarnated in any kingdom of nature, the spiritual principle will acquire functions, acquisitions in the physiology. Physiology talks about functions, okay? Breathing, heart beating, touch, the five senses, to perform primary actions of what? Maintenance, preservation, and renovation. Maintenance, preservation, and renovation. Why am I highlighting this? Because as Mentor Joseph says to us, the law of preservation is fundamental in life. It's in the Spirit's book by Kardec, Law of Preservation. But you know, many people nowadays are suffering in the world because they forgot to take care of themselves. Sometimes physically, oftentimes emotionally, and almost always they forget to take care of themselves spiritually. So the function of our own maintenance and preservation is of the essence. Anything that we do, we need to calibrate ourselves to be in synchronicity with the direction of life, which is to preserve ourselves. And we're saying this because many people, they keep themselves in toxic relationships, toxic environments, without noticing. And they forget that their first, most important function is to preserve themselves as divine beings. It's law of preservation. You need to protect your life. And your life, not only physical life, but emotional life, spiritual life. That's why sometimes we need to be selective in relationships. Loving, caring, compassionate, but there is boundaries. There are boundaries we need to observe. Boundaries. There, for example, have you ever experienced relationships in which, and we're not talking about romantic only, we're talking about friendship, colleagues at work, in communities, etc. So people lie to you And then they come back and they say, oh, let me try it again. I'm not going to do it again. And then they keep doing it. There is a moment in which we say, thank you, but no thank you. As Jesus said, we need to learn to say yes, yes, no, no. It's in the gospel. It's self-preservation. For example, people who enter addiction, they are not doing well in their self-preservation. They are maintenance in their preservation. Okay? So keep that in mind. Let us all keep this in mind as André Luiz is revealing to us that the goal of these experiences at the end of the day is for maintenance of ourselves, preservation, and renovation. We need to renew ourselves. And sometimes we are weary in life, tired, fatigued, because we have not learned how to recharge ourselves, to renew ourselves. Of course, André Luiz is going to talk about this in the different kingdoms. But when it comes to the human kingdom, the rule is the same: maintenance, preservation, and renovation. Maintenance, preservation, renovation. And when we care for others, we also mindfully observing this rule, we respect their limits as well. And we support their maintenance. We support their preservation. We support and collaborate in their renewal as well. Shall we, friends? After all, we are not alone at all. Let's go back, okay? Let's go back and see more. Now, André Luiz is going to tell us the following. Okay. He's going to say, the spiritual principle embodied all the properties of intelligence that will shine in the brain of the future, called reflex activities of the unconscious, through incessant repetition of the indispensable actions to its development. Observe this: incessant repetition. Okay? Repetition. So, non-stop. That's how we evolve. By repeating, 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 repeating until it becomes automated or second nature. That is what André Luiz is talking about. Your heart is beating without your awareness because you've acquired that function over the years, billions of years. Now he's going to talk about how true this is by referring to science in a moment in which René Descartes, René Descartes mentions about a specific theory, which we call here animal theory. So André Luiz says, aware of this, okay, let me go back one thing that I forgot to mention. Let me go back and mention something to you. A paragraph that is not disclosed here, and I think it's important to share. André Luiz is going to say that through this incessant, which means non-stop repetitions, we acquire this automated feature. And he says more to us, that in numberless learning stations, we acquire these features, the spiritual principles embodied all the properties of intelligence that will later shine in the brain of the future. Remember the viruses, the bacteria, the arthropods, mammals, blah, 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 the plants. Remember all the stages, different kingdoms. Those acquisitions later will be physiological automations that will be present in the human as second nature, in your brain, my brain. To the point that as a scientist, I can get an electrical current, pass or stimulate certain areas of the brain, and functions in the body will pop up. And you don't need a physical electrical current to even go through your brain. You just think and your brain starts lighting up, being activated in areas, and you start feeling things. Those automated functions were acquired through those internships of the intelligent principles in matter. Okay? So he's going to tell us now that René Descartes, who talked about I think, then I am, he also revealed a theory named animal spirits, in which he said that the reflexes happen because they were present without our participation of our will, he says. Then André Luiz says, and this is the beauty of it all, because he mentions a very important scientist. He says, Descartes failed to capture the full breadth of ways that unveil the evolution in the wake of centuries. But he addressed the truth of the reflex that follows the nerve impulse in the automatization in which the soul evolves to higher planes of consciousness. So stop for a second. The rule is this. I practice something and I repeat and I repeat and I make an effort and I repeat and I repeat and I repeat. It becomes second nature, automation. So now we know the trick in life. There's no struggle anymore. When a child comes to me and says, I can't do it. No, you don't want to do it. Because if you want to do it, repeat, repeat, try again and 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 again, you're going to make it. So for us, it's a matter of making an effort, repeating, making an effort, repeating, making an effort, repeating. We're going to get it. In this chapter 4, André Luiz is going to tell us this, that we spent lives and lives, the spiritual principle, in different species, different kingdoms, for centuries and millennia, acquiring functions. You want to know which functions, right? He's talking about. I'm going to share with you because he says it to us. Let's go back to the slides. And thank you, René Descartes, for your explanation. Now we go straight to automatism and heritage. What a beautiful concept. He says, in the human circle, intelligence is followed by reason, and reason by responsibility. Okay, repeat. In the human circle, intelligence is followed by reason, and reason by responsibility. In evolution, reflex precedes instinct as much as instinct precedes reflected activity. This is the basis of intelligence in the storage of the knowledge acquired by continuous recapitulation and transmission in the thousands of millennia that the spiritual principle slowly crosses the circles of elements of nature. Let me give you one more information and we'll be back to this slide, okay? He says, thus, in any study of the spiritual body, we cannot forget the preponderant role of automation and inheritance in the formation of responsible individuality, while understanding the unenforceability of any separation between physiology and psychology. What is he talking about? What is Andre Luiz talking about? Andre Luiz, what do you mean? Right? What do you mean? So let's go back here and study together. So this is the part of the chapter in which he's talking about. He repeats, you see, Andre is such a good educator that he repeats. He repeats throughout the chapter, and you kind of second guess. Is it really that easy? I tell you, it is. If you're understanding it, believe. That's what he means. He means. And he repeats to us. He says, clear cut, that everything happened. Let me see. He says, okay, that in evolution, reflex comes, then instinct, okay, and then instinct, the reflected activity, meaning automation, okay. So he's gonna tell us that by thousands of millennia, continuously repeating, recapitulating, we acquire the spiritual principle slowly crosses the elements of nature. So that's why patience, easy. And he says to us, we need first to produce, to expand ourselves in new features, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it to become automated. Later, as we read, he says to us, it is vital to understand that in order to be automated, we need to store that information. And like an inheritance, bring it forth. So the experience and the knowledge is cumulative. You never lose it. That's what he's telling us. And he's saying, what we learn stays with us and accumulates, and accumulates, and accumulates. We never lose it. That's why when you learn to read, from there on, you're reading. I'm just giving you an analogy, okay? Once you acquire that feature, it stays with you. So it's a good reminder for us. What are the things that stay with us for immortality? Moral achievements and intellectual achievements. Material ones, they stay. Acquisitions in the sense of material objects, they stay. But the experience with the objects, with the material world, with people, right, with other beings of nature, they stay with us. So the moral and the intellectual, they stay with us. So if we want to maximize the gain in one reincarnation, what do? Focus in acquisitions that we can take to immortality. Immortal acquisitions. So next time you take a plane for a vacation, Look at your vacation in 2 worlds. Seriously, relax with wisdom. Go for reflections. But observe the people that are there. Maybe they need you there. But Vanessa, I just want to relax. But when are we going to be ever relaxed on this planet with so many people in need? So we learn to be relaxed while serving. I'm sorry, the message is not mine. It comes from Jesus. But we can't forget our immortal goals, the immortal acquisitions. He says here, we automate and evolve. Okay? And he says more. And now I'm going to give you more slides, okay, for the reinforcement of our learning experience. He says, again, in this inheritance, he says, in the force of attraction, in the mineral kingdom, sensation in the plant, and instinct in animals, we see the chrysalis of awareness building its schools of organization, sensitivity, and intelligence, transforming gradually all the nervous activity in the psychic life. Pause. The force of attraction in the mineral. So, the mineral is also a stage, as Leon Denis says in his book. In the mineral kingdom, the spiritual principle is dormant, right? Dormant. Okay? So, force of attraction. Nowadays, science agrees that in the mineral kingdom, there are different types that tell us about the different bonds of force, and as such, they are rehearsing different types of organization. That's what Andre Luiz is saying. In the mineral kingdom, we are learning features in organization. In the plant kingdom, in which the spiritual principle is dreaming, as Leon Denis says, we are rehearsing our sensitivity, and in the animal kingdom, our intelligence through the experiences of instinct. Here, the expression chrysalis of awareness is the synonym to what Andre Luiz said yesterday, the celestial monad, which is a synonym to intelligent principle. Okay, friends? Tell me if there is a question, because I can pause and answer to this question. But are you enjoying it? Yeah, you're going to appreciate your life even more after this study, because we'll see how precious it is. Now he tells us about evolution and the kynetics of the cosmokinetic principles. What is cosmokinetic? Kinetics in physics is the study of the forces that act on a mechanism. So that's what he's talking about. And he says, remember, Moses in the book Genesis, in the Bible, the Old Testament, it says that the world was created in 7 days, right? 6 days, and the seventh God rested. And then Andre Luiz says, well, the days of creation marked in the books of Moses are equivalent actually to immense periods of time and space, because the spiritual body that shapes the physical body and the physical body that represents the spiritual body constitute the work of numerous centuries. patiently prepared in two different spheres of life. So when people ask you, really, did the God create our world in just 1 week? Of course not. Oh, because God can't? No, God can do anything, right? God can do anything. But there is no reason because we're not created like that. He created us as celestial monads and we need to work. We're co-creators. Effort, repetition, but we're not alone. Angelic ministers, tutors, always guiding us. So your pet has protecting spirits. Vanessa, are you sure? I'm sure, says Andrea Luiz. We are cared for way before we enter the internships in matter. Isn't that beautiful? So we need to be mindful of nature as well. Be loving and caring with nature. Okay? And he is telling us something here we can't forget. He says, patiently prepared in two spheres of life. So we can no longer think of things changing in a snap. I think we're living in the most impatient time of humankind on earth. I don't think we've ever been this impatient. And I guess it's because we can see a little further and we want to move faster, but we can't quite get there. And we're so out of balance, mind and body, that our minds are so somewhere else, while our bodies are still in a different pace. So we need to practice mindfulness and work on patience. This chapter brings to us the awareness, reinforces the need of patience in our lives. The high spirits, they are not screaming at us. You know, it's funny, sometimes people go with their kids to soccer games or any type of game and they're like, oh my gosh, they're not learning, or at school, right? They're not learning, oh my God. But believe, it's just a matter of effort and repetition, and we can learn anything, anything. So if they are not learning, we need to find a new method to help them out. But they learn. There is no individual in this, I will rephrase it, no living being that cannot learn and progress in our different categories. And I mean kingdoms, the mineral, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. And now Andrea Luiz is going to reveal to us in this evolution and the cosmokinetic principles that the spiritual principles were resumed in the cradle and in the grave with the guidance. And I'm going to show this to you because you deserve to visualize this beautiful sentence. If you're hearing us at Kardec Radio, it's okay. But you can go to YouTube at kardecradio.com or our Facebook page at Kardec Radio and watch the video so you can see the slides. Okay? Right now, oops, let me go back to the slide. That's the one. So the spiritual principles were resumed in the cradle and in the grave with the guidance of the divine instructors. Okay? Who supervise the terrestrial evolution. Who supervise our terrestrial evolution. Did it freeze for us, friends? Because it looks like it froze here for me. But keep that in mind. Keep this in mind. The divine instructors supervising the terrestrial evolution. So you're not alone. I'm not alone. Your cat, your dog, your plant. Nothing is alone. Everything matters. Literally, matter matters because it's a creation of God as well. You see how much we need to open ourselves to understand more. And André Luiz continues by telling us more. He says, we don't want to be arrogant and pretentious defining God, but he says to us clearly, okay? He says to us, we simply propose to point out the law of evolution that prevails for all beings in the universe. So if you look at somebody and think that they are lost, think again. Nobody is. Everything shall pass. And he says, the cosmokinetic principles that determine the balance of stars are in origin the same principles that regulate the physical life in structure and the movement of the small particles like atoms. Okay? So André Luiz is coming to reveal to us that these are the laws of life. Pretty much that's how it happens. The law of life. And he reveals. Again, patience, slow advancements, he's telling us. Slow advancements. And he's saying, the vehicle of the spirit beyond the grave, which is the spiritual body, in the extra-physical plane, or when reconstituted in the cradle, meaning after death, or in an incarnation, the spiritual body is the sum of experiences infinitely repeated, advancing slowly from darkness to light. Right, Fernando Oliveira, Carol Correa. This understanding makes me eternally happy and grateful no matter what happens in my life, where God should indeed. Thank you, Fernando, for such a beautiful insight. Now look, your spiritual body, which is our vehicle, our spiritual body, the perispirit, is the sum of our infinitely repeated experiences. So why are you in a rush? Take a pill named patience. Breathe in and out and let us say, I am progressing, I am evolving, and so is everyone. So is everyone. And he continues by reaffirming to us. In the perispirit, we place, he says, the spiritual individuality, which draws from the lesser species to assert itself, the lesser lives that will serve it. From those experiences, the spiritual body accumulates its precious cooperation to grow in its turn, according to the inevitable objectives of progress. So he's saying, we are going to progress in all those small experiences, accumulating and expanding. Remember, expansion and progress. Now he's going to tell the beauty of this inheritance. He says, all organs of the spiritual body, and consequently the physical body, were therefore built slowly, given the need of the mental field on its conditioning and expression of the terrestrial environment. So pause, think about your heart, your liver, your intestine, your lungs, your brain. It was built slowly by the command of the mental field, the mental body, the repetition, the conditionings, which is already the inheritance, and the expression of the terrestrial environment. Now he's going to tell how it happened. So he's going to say, the genesis or the origin of the sense of touch was born in the intelligent principle when it was doing an internship through nuclear cells in the amoeboid movements. Okay, Vanessa, pause for a second. What is this again? You know, the sense of touch? Touch, like you touch with your hands. This ability, the ability to perceive through touch, was an acquisition when the spiritual principle was doing internship in the amoeba or in nuclear cells through the amoeboid movements. Look at this. So you understand more about if you're not familiar with this. This is like a cell, okay? And then look at this, the membrane, and then it expands to the right, creating a pseudopod, which is a false feet, to acquire something. It's the crawling movement of the cell, the cytoplasm of the cell. Through that movement, the spiritual principle acquired the sense of touch, but by repeating for centuries and millennia. The cells in our physical body are capable of doing this. For example, the cells of our defense system, they have this ability, and that's how they take care and protect us from the invasion of strange organisms. Okay, now Andre Luiz is going to talk about the origin or the genesis of the sense of vision. You can see through your eyes. Where did that ability begin? It began through the sensitivity of the plasma in the unicellular flagellates exposed to the solar flare. What does that mean, Vanessa? Look at the picture to give you an idea. This is the picture of beings way back when, protozoans. They have little flaps, let's say this way, like flagellates, and they swim. And they swim in the direction of the light. It's called the Eliozoan, for example. So that ability, the repetition for centuries and millennia, made us register in our spiritual body the ability to see, the sensitivity to see. He's talking about the genesis, where it began. Now, the genesis of the sense of smell. It began, okay, so I think some people may be asking this, and I'll put a pause and talk to you about this, because it may be confusing. Remember the principle, okay? We are spiritual beings, spiritual principles. And to do internships in matter, we need to connect, we need to acquire, as Kardec says in the book Genesis, acquire elements from the universal cosmic fluid to form our spiritual body. That spiritual body evolves, expands, but stores all of our experiences. And that's what André Luiz is saying. When you see that cell making that movement to create a false feet, to get to something or to move, okay? In that experience, that information, like bits of information, travel to the spiritual body that is still at that stage and accumulates the knowledge, that experience. By repeating it, it becomes second nature, and that's the genesis of the five senses. André Luiz is telling us about the origins of these five senses, okay? So let's go back. Now, what about the sense of smell? The origin of it, the genesis, began in the aquatic animals of the simplest expression through the excitations of the environment where they were evolving. And it's so beautiful. I have many neuroscientists, colleagues who are experts in the neuroscience of olfaction, the sense of smell. And actually, many of them study it in aquatic animals like this one that you're seeing in this picture. You see how André Luiz is ahead of the game. This book was written in 1958. Back then, not no neuroscientists were doing studies in that regard in those animals. So you see how André Luiz is revealing to us advancements that we should pay attention. Okay? Now, the genesis of the sense of taste. It appeared in the plants, many of them containing slimy hair, distilling digestive juices. Wow! Like that type of plant that you're seeing in the picture. Wow! That was the first rehearsal of the sense of taste. Genesis of the sense, the sexual sensations. They came up with the seaweed that were not only provided with male and female cells that swim, but also an outline of sensitive skin, which we define as secondary region of reproductive sympathies. So for us here, André Luiz is revealing the beauty of this genesis, okay? And I have studies in which scientists have proved to us that this is true. And I will give you a reference here before I wrap up the chapter. This was 1995, okay, when scientists observed synchronized seaweed sex, okay, and this is a scientific study. André Luiz reviews in 1958, and scientists published firsthand in 1995. All right. Finally, to wrap up for today, work of intelligence. André Luiz says to us, therefore, examining the phenomenon of systematic reflection, which generates the automatism that marks the intelligence of all spontaneous actions of the spiritual body, we recognize without difficulty that the march of the intelligent principle to the human realm and the journey of the human consciousness to the angelic realm symbolize the multi-millenary expansion of the creature of God, who by virtue of the divine law shall deserve with its own labor the halo of immortality in heaven. What does that mean? That God is so loving, God is so caring, that God allows us to work to merit our own existence. So next time a parent or a teacher, an educator wants the child to work less, do what God does. Push, push. If we love, we push. Say, come on, let's go. That's what God does. Have you ever watched the March of Penguins? That's your homework. That's our homework. Okay, friends? Watch the documentary March of the Penguins. And if you have, recapitulate, because here he's going to say to us that this multimillenary expansion is through labor, inevitably. So this chapter brings to us that every acquisition, our heart beating, the breathing, everything, the sense, the five senses, everything is our inheritance of billions of years of work that we've done with the blessings and the sustenance of God. So next time you doubt yourself, tell yourself, I believe in me. Shall we wrap up this way? I believe in me and I believe in you. We believe in our capacity. We are children of God and we progress always. Shall we, friends? Tomorrow, when we come back, Andre Luiz is going to reveal to us another chapter in which he's going to expand these notions to another level. He's going to talk about cells and the spiritual body. He's going to recapitulate somewhat this automatism in different ways. He's repeating and expanding just like he mentions to us. Oh, Andre Luis, thank you for your beautiful method of educating us. Friends, I wish you a beautiful night if you're going to sleep. But if you're going to stay awake and keep working during your day, may you have a beautiful day in effort, repetition of love and light. Shall we, friends? Until tomorrow, my friends, God willing.